And the last leg is that he's able to actually bring about his plan. If he loves me and he has a great plan for me, but it's up to me to accomplish, then I'm not trusting him. I'm out there trying to get it done. If I know that he loves me and he's got a good plan for me, but he's not capable of bringing it about, then I can't entrust my life to him. I've got to build the life for myself. I must accomplish the godly life that he calls me to. It's up to me. And either I'm a Pharisee and think that it's my doing that causes the work in favor of God in my life, or I think I'm the low-down, dirty, doggone sinner that doesn't deserve it, so I'm never going to get it. I can't trust his plan for my life either. I've got to do it, or I have no hope of it. But the truth is that not only does God love me, and not only does he have a great plan that is for me and knows better than me, but God is able to bring about more than you could ask or think of him. He is able to bring about his plan. He has a better plan than you do for him. He has a better plan for you than you do for him. And he loves you. The plan that he has and the work in your life that he's doing is for your good. You may say, Mike, that sounds great, and I can see that in Scripture, but how do I grow? What does that have to do with me being able to grow? How do those legs grow when they're weak? The problem is, in my circumstances today, how can I trust his plan that I don't know? How can I trust his love that I don't always feel? How can I trust that he is able to bring about what he wants for me when so much in my life seems broken and fallen apart? The problem is we're trying to judge the love and power and plan of God based on that limited view of my life, of what I don't yet know of his plan and haven't yet experienced of his love and his power in my life. But his passion, his plan, and his power were fully revealed in his work on the cross. We don't look at my immediate circumstances and say, everything is going the way I want, so God must love me. No, Paul said in Romans 5:8 that we know what love is in this, not that everything I want from God he gives me. Wouldn't that be bad parenting? If you have children, you know when you walk through Target, you don't give them everything that you want or they grow up in a way that's unhealthy. You don't deprive them of everything that they want or they grow up in a way that's unhealthy. So you have to know what they need, and you have to know when to provide that, and you have to know when to withhold that so that they grow up knowing what you know, experiencing what you know they need in their life. In the same way, God's not going to always do in your immediate circumstances what you want, because that wouldn't make you a healthy, growing, spiritual adult. So how do you judge it? You look at the cross. Romans 5:8 again says that while we know what love is in this, that while we were still sinners, in rebellion against God, trying to be our own source, living independent of him, while we were still in rebellion against him, he died for us. Christ died for us while we were sinners, not when we repented. He died first. He loved us first. He loved us unconditionally. He loved those who would reject him as much as he loved those who would accept him. Doesn't that blow your mind? He doesn't love you more when you receive him than he did when you were still rejecting him. In fact, Paul in that very passage is saying occasionally you might see someone who would die for a good person, but you never see someone who would die for a bad person, referencing what Jesus said to the disciples. Instead, what God has actually done is while we were at war against him, lobbing grenades of independence to try to control our own life, right, being our own source, Jesus actually ran across the enemy line and jumped on our sin, our grenade thrown against God to keep us from suffering the penalty of death that we deserved for our sin. He actually suffered the penalty of our sin that would have otherwise destroyed us. That's love. You occasionally hear someone who jumps on a grenade from the enemy to save their buddies, but you never hear of the enemy running across enemy lines to jump on the grenade that you're throwing against them so that you don't destroy yourself in your war against the enemy. Wow, that's great love, isn't it? God has consumed our sin and crucified it with Christ on the cross so that we wouldn't suffer the penalty of our rebellion against him. We know what love is, and we know how perfect God's plan is, and we know the power at work towards us. When we look at the cross, not our immediate circumstances, How perfect was his plan for redemption through the cross from before the foundation of the world? How perfect is his power towards us that brings us into union with Christ, that his resurrection is our resurrection, that his very life is now alive in us through the resurrection of Jesus Christ. How incredible is his love and power and plan for us when we look at the cross. We can't throw a switch to have more faith, but Hebrews 12:2, the first part of that verse says, we fix our eyes on Jesus. We don't fix our eyes on our faith. We don't try to fix our circumstances. We're not fixing our life. We're not fixing anything in our circumstances. We fix our eyes on Jesus, who's the author and perfecter, right? He's the completer, the finisher of our faith. He completes it. He initiates it. When we see what he did on the cross, we put our faith in him, and he's the perfecter of it, right? The author and the finisher, the initiator and the perfecter of our faith, who for the joy set before him endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Go and read it, Hebrews 12:2. So we fix our eyes on him, and he builds us up because he shows us through his work on the cross how loved we are. He shows us how perfect his plan is for us. And he shows us the power that he worked through Christ's work on the cross is the same power that's at work in our life today. So even in circumstances where we don't know God's plan, we trust him not because we approve of his plan, but because we know the planner. Not because we know the blessing, but we know the blesser. Not because we always know what he's going to bring about, but we know the one who is bringing it about. We see who he is, how much he loves us, and his plan for us, and his power toward us on the cross. So we trust him in circumstances where we can't see those things because we can already know that they're true. Fix your eyes on Jesus, and he'll be the one that raises you up.